Alright, shalom TikTok and YouTube if I post it up there and waving. Chances are I will. So in this particular video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to encompass my trials and what have you, into where I believe that I'm being gang stalked and what have you, right? So that said, first trial, obviously, and you can go to my website in regards to that as a matter of perjury and what have you, where I felt as though they're trying to coerce me into committing perjury and what have you, therefore I argued it, right? I technically lost the case only based on the fact that I conceded only on the principle that I did cause damage, and therefore I conceded, right? So even though I knew that based on a technicality it should have been thrown out, nevertheless I conceded. I took responsibility for the damage that I caused Wavy and their time in Wavy. So that said, second trial, not my responsibility. Although the judge wanted to say that it was my responsibility and what have you, for having a rental vehicle inspected. Keep that in mind, right? So third trial, based on them alienating my rights in the second trial and trying to say that it was my responsibility to have a rental vehicle inspected when I wouldn't be able to even know that it was not properly inspected. Yeah, no bueno. So that's why you have that police interaction video where you got a copy of the Constitution, especially with everything that happened with the narrative there of COVID and everything else, and everybody that goes up against the Democrat is racist and everything else. All these various dynamics. It's like, yeah, it's time to assert my rights. It's time to put my foot down as a Messianic Jew and say enough is enough. I'm tired of the rhetoric, right? So validated that I asserted my rights. My rights were openly and blatantly violated on a multitude of levels. Treason, everything else, under the pretense that just because I don't use the Gregorian calendar that I must be intellectually inept or what have you, right? Which is racism, right? And everything else. And then they tried to deem me incompetent when Article 1, Section 3 of the New York State Constitution states quite clearly I can't be deemed incompetent. Variety of factors, right? Trying to create mental anguish and coerce me into compliance without due process of law, right? All of it without due process, no jury trial, anything like that. So they mitigated my rights. I could have writ of mandamus and a quote warranto to have the city charter revoked. That's how severe it was, right? Very easily, because they think that they're above the law, their oath of office, in other words, right? So based on that principle, that led me to the fourth trial, where the same Officer Schwick, badge 203 from North Tonawanda, New York, which was the lieutenant that arrested me in the third trial in Wavy under the pretense and was making false accusations, a multitude of them, that I'm incompetent in Wavy, mentally retarded in Wavy, when he was, right? I asserted the very principle. I said that anybody that calls December the 12th month when it literally means the 10th isn't intellectually capable, right? And he was openly and blatantly violating my rights, right? In the third trial, which is why I called 911, because they're threatening me and coercing me, right? Not only that, I did identify. They charged me with failure to identify when I did identify. So that's perjury and everything else. And then, so therefore, it led to the fourth trial, which was a matter of perjury, that occurrence that never even occurred. I was never pulled over, let alone issued a traffic citation. I went into an eatery, saw the Officer Swick eating a meal, didn't say anything to him, right? Left him alone, whatever kind of thing, went about my business. But when I did my business, looked around, he wasn't no longer in the facility, left the facility, the police vehicle was no longer there, and I noticed a piece of paper on my front driver's seat, right? Now keep in mind that the rental vehicle automatically locked itself, so there was no way that anybody could have opened that door and placed a piece of paper on my driver's seat, right? Unless they broke into my vehicle. So not only that, it was a citation. It didn't make any sense to me in what have you. So I saw my name on it, I saw the license plate on it and what have you. And to me it's like, yeah, nothing even occurred, so I ended up throwing it out at Panera, Niagara Falls Boulevard in Amherst, New York, right? After I drove there, right? I'm like, whatever, didn't make sense. Ignored it completely. So I get a notice from the DMV. DMV's threatening to suspend my license for failure to respond to the ticket. Why have you emailed the court clerk, City of North Tonawanda, obviously, again, why have you. got the copy of the ticket, validated it was Officer Swick that issued the citation. But again, as you can see in my police interaction videos, I don't allow them to assert any level of authority over me, right? So again, it's a matter of perjury, official misconduct, and everything else, all these various crimes, but I don't know what a crime is, right? Because his feelings were hurt, right? So then I made a motion to dismiss, but on public record, right? They ignored the motion to dismiss, where I asserted in writing that they're violating a multitude of my rights, basically threw both constitutions out the window, right? But I'm the one that thinks that I'm above the law when they're violating a multitude of state and federal laws, right? So ultimately the case got dismissed because the people weren't ready. I clarified that I am the people. The church is the people, not a place. I am the people. They are my servants. And they wanted to proceed in action anyway without my consent, right? And they ignored that motion to dismiss, which makes them complicit with a conspiracy against rights charge and everything else, obstruction of justice, and a variety of other things, right? Now I'm being gang stalked based on that. So then after that, I got pulled over a few times. One in Batavia, New York, for failure to use the turn signal. It was late at night in Wayavia, and I did use my turn signal. I'm fairly certain I did. Again, with it being a rental vehicle in Wayavia, the equipment probably didn't malfunction. But how would I be able to contest anything he said other than I have First Amendment immunity, right? He's perjury and everything else. Correlate that with everything else. And again, it's a matter of authority. They're trying to indicate that they have the authority over me when they don't, right? So in that case, I didn't assert my Fourth Amendment immunity, legal searches and seizures, anything else. I had things to do, right? He was interrupting me in progress of things that I had to do, right? So it's like, whatever. He didn't issue a citation, maybe, so I didn't argue. Let it go. Then I got pulled over in Leroy, New York, right? For speeding. Albeit I probably was speeding a little bit, but I wasn't intentionally speeding, and that's an element of a crime, is that you have to do it intentionally. And there's 2 speed limit signs for a reason. Usually if you hit the speed limit by the second speed limit sign, then you're hunky-dory, but I must have missed the first one. It's right around the corner from where I live, and I'm in the area all the time. Now they have a speed limit zone right next to that, by the sheriff's office, right? But anyway, pulled over. That time I asserted my rights, right? He was trying to assert authority over me. I told him he was committing a crime and everything else. He didn't even know what Penal Code 195.00 was and everything else, right? So I told him what it was and everything else, right? Asserted my rights with him. He didn't issue me a citation. He said he was going to let me go anyway. Bottom line is, he didn't even have the authority to pull me over to begin with, right? Unlawful detention. A traffic infraction is not a crime and not probable cause for an arrest. And I'm in custodial arrest when they pull you over, so they're automatically committing a crime, right? So now my equipment on the car somehow, when I run a vehicle, one of the high beams on the headlights went out. For whatever reason, I was pulled over by a state trooper, and for it, which is kind of weird that he was in the area to begin with for that, and to be able to even see it on the fly like that, with it being the high beam, not the low beam. The low beam was still working, so the headlight was still functional. So it was only one of the beams that was out, pulled over. Then he starts asking me a lot of questions that correlate to whether or not I would be deemed a sovereign citizen, right? Which is what the courts in Wayavia tried to indicate that I am, that I'm a sovereign citizen. I'm above the law, because I am above the law, because any law that violates the rights of the people is automatically null and void of law. That's Jim Crow laws and everything else correlate that. So, and they're the ones that are breaking the law. So whatever, he didn't issue me a citation. I said it would be fixed, and correlate that again with the second trial, where they're trying to say that it was my responsibility to have a rental vehicle inspected, right? So did they do something deliberately to the vehicle to allow them to pull me over like that, tracking my phones and everything else to know that I was in that particular area at that particular time for that situation, right? So then you look at the other police interactions and get you going, get you thinking. I got a notice from the IRS to file my 2023 tax returns, because I haven't filed tax returns for a multitude of years, not just that year, because I'm tax exempt and I don't need the IRS's permission, because I don't need to give up my First Amendment ability to preach against the government to take a tax exemption, which is their codes and their regulations, right? So they're trying to force me into compliance. To me, it's a no-brainer. right? I can always win because they're putting me under duress, and that's illegal. So.